Have you ever seen a headline that just stops you in your tracks, one that feels bigger than just the news of the day? Well, what if a major global peace deal seemed to be following a script written thousands of years ago? Today, we're diving into a fascinating collision between modern geopolitics and ancient prophecy.
This quote from author Jonathan Cahn it hits the nail on the head, right? It perfectly captures that eerie feeling we're exploring, this sense that something much, much bigger might be unfolding right under our noses.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 2025. A massive, landmark peace plan brokered by Jared Kushner does the unthinkable. It actually unites Israel, Hamas, and a coalition of 7 other nations. I mean, this is a moment of global celebration, right? It's succeeding where literally decades of diplomacy have failed.
And that brings us to the central question of this entire explainer. Is this just a monumental achievement for humanity, a win for global peace? Or, as some are starting to whisper, could it be something else entirely? Let's unpack the evidence from both sides.
All right, so first up, we have to travel back in time to the ancient book of Daniel. In it, the prophet talks about a figure who will one day confirm a covenant with many. So the burning question is, could a 21st century political deal actually be the very thing Daniel saw all those centuries ago?
Well, for proponents like Jonathan Cahn, the connection is undeniable. They see a direct, almost one-to-one alignment. They even point out that Daniel's word is confirmed, not created, which is exactly what a broker does, right? They don't make something from scratch, they confirm what's already there. For them, the parallels are just too strong to ignore.
But hold on, because on the other side, you have respected theologians like N.T. Wright who urge extreme caution. He warns that trying to match today's headlines to Scripture verse by verse is a huge mistake. It basically turns prophecy into a kind of political fortune-telling, and that's a dangerous game to play.
So you can see the two camps forming. On one side, you have the view that this deal is a major signpost in a divine plan, echoing Daniel's ancient words. And on the other, the view that it's simply a product of skilled negotiation, a very fragile, very human solution to a very human problem.
And look, this isn't just some abstract academic debate. The way people interpret this deal has serious real-world consequences. So, what exactly is at stake if we get it wrong?
Well, the experts point to some pretty big risks. And Graham Lotz warns it could create a false sense of peace, lulling everyone into a dangerous complacency. Cornel West talks about the risk of idolatry, where we start celebrating the dealmaker more than actual justice. Joel Rosenberg sees a direct military threat. Israel might let its guard down. And the historian Yuval Noah Harari worries it makes people passive, just waiting for fate instead of actively making good choices.
Okay, so we've talked about the deal itself. Now let's shift gears and talk about the peace it creates. Because in the book of 1 Thessalonians, there's a pretty chilling warning. It says that when people are shouting peace and safety, that's when sudden destruction will come. Could that possibly apply here? At the heart of this is the idea of false security. So what is that exactly? Well, think of it as a peace built on a shaky, human-made foundation, not a divine one. And according to Scripture, that's the most dangerous kind of peace because it can create a massive blind spot, a vulnerability that enemies can and will exploit.
And Anne Graham Lotz really draws a sharp line in the sand here. She says true peace, what the Bible calls shalom, is about healing hearts and true reconciliation. This deal, it's political, it's temporary, and because it's, in her view, absent of God, it's not just fake, it's profoundly dangerous.
But then you have this secular viewpoint from someone like Harari. He looks at this and doesn't see anything evil, just normal. He'd say, of course it's fragile. All human-made peace is fragile by definition. History is basically a graveyard of forever peace deals that fell apart. For him, this isn't a sign of some dark prophecy. It's just a sign that it was made by humans.
All right, let's zoom out now and look at the geopolitical map, because this is where things get really interesting. The ancient prophet Ezekiel described a very specific group of nations that would one day form a coalition to attack Israel. The wild question today is, are we watching that exact alliance form right before our very eyes?
So for centuries, biblical scholars have pretty consistently identified these ancient lands from Ezekiel's prophecy, Magog, Persia, and Togarmah, with the modern nations we know today as Russia, Iran, and Turkey. Now here's the kicker. Today, for the first time in modern history, those 3 nations are in a close military alliance.
Joel Rosenberg really hammers this point. This isn't some alliance that's been around for ages. He says, hey, 20 years ago, this didn't exist. It's a recent development. And the fact that it's these specific nations, well, that's what makes anyone who studies prophecy just sit up and pay very close attention.
So the next question is, why would they attack? Well, this is where prophecy and pragmatism start to sound chillingly similar. Ezekiel said the motive would be to take a spoil. Well, what does modern Israel have? Oh, just massive natural gas reserves and world-leading technology. Then you add in Russia wanting to control energy markets or other nations wanting to exploit a perceived weakness. Suddenly, the ancient motivations sound very, very modern.
Okay, so after hearing all that, it's easy to feel a little overwhelmed, right? The goal here isn't to get out a crystal ball and predict the future, but to figure out how we can navigate these confusing and, frankly, sometimes scary times with a bit of wisdom and discernment.
The experts actually give us a really solid framework. First, stay grounded in Scripture. Use it as a guide. Second, think critically. Always ask, cui bono? Who benefits from this story? Third, resist fear. These prophecies, if they are prophecies, are meant to prepare us, not paralyze us. And finally, don't do this alone. Seek truth in community and stay watchful, but don't give in to despair. It's a really powerful way to approach all this. And I love this final thought from Harari because it really bridges both perspectives. Whether you believe prophecy is unfolding minute by minute or not, our choices, right here, right now, still have immense power. Destiny doesn't cancel out our responsibility to choose wisely. So we'll leave you with this question to ponder. When the news of today seems to echo the words of the ancient past, how do you make sense of it all? What's the lens you use? Is it prophetic? Is it pragmatic? Or maybe it's something else entirely for understanding our wild and rapidly changing world?